Good evening, everyone. Everyone rise and take a moment for silent reflection. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Call roll. I'm present. Bishop Dr. O'Neill.
Present.
Master Heater.
Thanks, Brad. So, here.
Ms. Bales.
Present.
Ms. Barnes-Griffin.
Present.
Mr. Irving. Present. Mr. Lowe.
Present.
Mr. Short. CEO comments.
Well, good afternoon. It feels strange not to be able to smile at all of you, but under my mask, I'm smiling. The first thing I'd like to mention is that Southside Middle School received a Don't Quit Champion School recognition from the National Foundation for Governors Fitness Council and the state of Indiana. They are going to receive a fitness center worth $100,000. It's just remarkable. The goal of this foundation is to build the healthiest kids in the world. With having the federally qualified health center at Southside and now the fitness center, we're going to be able to support the physical, social, emotional health of our students. So we're extremely excited. Speaking of federally qualified health centers, I just wanted to mention again that Open Door is looking at running a FQHC at Central High School, and I know that they have been submitting paperwork and visiting the school, and that continues to move forward. We also are going to continue with a summer food program. So this is unofficial. We're waiting for our official approval from the Department of Education that everything indicates that we will receive that approval. And what that means is for summer, we're going to open up all of our school sites, and on Mondays, we'll provide the 10 meal packets throughout the summer. And so as long as we get approval, it would be the Tuesday after Memorial Day, and then following that every Monday afterwards. So we will get that information out to our families. And then I also wanted to make sure that all of you are noticing your posters. We want you to find a place and put your posters. Classes begin August 11th. Enrollment is open. Anyone can enroll by going to enrollmuncie.org. And we highly encourage you to share this information. Enrollment is open. Every school will have a preschool. And so if someone is interested in a 3 or 4-year-old attending one of our school's preschools, they can also register online. And this is also true for kindergarten. All of our schools have full-day kindergarten classrooms. Please help us get the word out to get students enrolled. That's what I have, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? No public comments, I guess.
Can I say one thing? I know you normally do it, and you might have it on your
Go ahead.
list, but Mr. Ray, he passed away, so just wanted to say publicly that for all of the years of me being under him at the school and all of us being affected by him, I just wanted to just take a moment just to think about Mr. Ray.
What was Mr. Ray's position?
He did a little bit of everything. So he was really in charge of like AV and audiovisual over the years. He taught in classroom, and then he did AV and audiovisual stuff at Muncie Central. And he was over like the what is it? kids and stuff. Yeah, that's it, student council, and like yearbook and a lot of that, so it was just really good to.
Thank you for mentioning that.
And one special project I did mention about Charlie Ray was when my daughter started playing soccer up at Central, we were about to move soccer away from Central because the field was in such horrible shape. He volunteered his labor if we just paid for the materials, and he put in an irrigation system in it that was actually expanded to baseball. So without his help, I'm not sure where we would have went. So very gracious man. Yep.
Thank you both. We'll go to the consent agenda. We have items A through E. Any questions concerning any of those matters in your packets that came out, items A through E?
The only question I had, Brad, the pass-throughs, are those special ed?
We had pass-throughs for YOC, we had other pass-throughs for special ed, yes.
Okay, because your town was pretty big, it was 300 and something thousand.
That was special ed.
Yes, special ed.
That's what I
That
thought.
was 372,000, yes.
Yes,
Pass-through from the state.
A couple of the co-op schools, so Yorktown, they wait until the very end to bill.
I just want to recognize Ms. Goff. She's retiring from Westview, but she's been with Muncie Community Schools for 32 years. So we appreciate her. I'm sad to see her go.
32 years, yes, that was on my list. Any additional questions? Okay, would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Been moved. I'll show a second from Natasha, a motion from Brittany. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Mr. Durham, the financial report.
Yes, thank you. In your board packet was the month of actual results for April 2020. I just report on the where we closed the books and where we finished our cash position with a little over $20 million still in the overall fund balance, still receiving our state basic grant from the state of Indiana. So nothing has been cut, nothing's been reduced from the state of Indiana. Obviously, I'm sure you all saw the report from the state of Indiana that just came out last week that their overall tax collections were down $940 million. So certainly, will that have an impact? We don't know yet. I mean, on school funding, but for right now, we still are receiving our funding each month from the state and still projecting healthy balances by the end of this year in our overall fund balance, even if they would reduce funding a bit. But right now, we're still we're certainly aware of that the state funding is down, but right now we're still projecting that we would set aside another $2 million in a rainy day fund this year out of our education fund as we had planned and projected. So that's just a couple highlights I wanted to note from April. We're still about where we had planned on the headcount and certainly where we had expected on cash balances. The month of May and June here, we will soon know how we're impacted by the county, the statewide decision on removing the penalty on paying the property taxes. The bills go out still to be paid by May 10th, but if you don't pay by May 10th, there's no penalty. So last year we had received over $5 million in May and June of our local property taxes out of the approximately almost $11 million that we received. So that may be down a little bit this month and next. We still hope to still collect all the taxes we're supposed to receive. That pretty much represents some of the main highlights, I think, for the financial results. Obviously, it's only 4 months. It's not your 12-month snapshot is December 31st, but I just always like to present that information to the board so you can get a flavor for where we think we're going to go.
Any questions for Mr. Durham? Thank you for your report, and certainly from the board's perspective, keeping a close eye on what's happening with state revenue as it concerns public education is going to be critical. I went ahead and paid both my installments yesterday, and I'm smiling.
That's what I got.
I decided, what the heck, pay them both. So,
I do have one question, actually. I was looking at the rainy day fund, and December ending balance in 2019, and now in April 2020 is the same balance. Is that sitting in a checking account or something, or is it in a non-interest bearing account? How does that work?
It's, our rainy day fund is in like our overall, checkbook of funds, if you will. Right now, all our funds are almost zero interest, because they're very low right now, but it's commingled with all of our funds. We just have it set aside in that specific fund balance. That way you have flexibility to use it if you need to. Right now, we're not really planning on using it until we would have to start paying back the loan for the state of Indiana. We're paying for about 4 years out of our own education fund, and then we'll flip over and start paying it out of the rainy day fund after we've set aside about $8 million.
okay, thank you. Presuming that interest rates would go up, I would assume that we could put those in certificates of deposit, something like that. Very
Yeah,
conservative.
we certainly can do things like that. Last year, we had received interest of a little over, it was $110,000, $120,000. This year is projected to be a little bit lower because we've seen a drastic drop in our rate.
Is there a restriction guided by the state on the risky investment?
Yes, there is. We're not allowed to do anything too exotic.
So there's some control.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything further regarding the financial report? We'll entertain a motion to approve. So moved. Mr. Heater has moved, and Mr. Irvin has seconded. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Dr. Reynolds, are you there?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. We turned him up just a little.
I will say I do miss seeing everyone in person and being a live member of the discussion there.
And we miss you.
Hey, this evening I bring for you review and approval the updated 2021 Student Handbook, or newly titled Student Family Handbook and Support Guide. If I could just for a second talk about the committee, they were outstanding. About 15 teachers and guidance counselor, an educational psychologist, administrators, student assistant coordinator, and MCS parents were on the committee. We met 6 times. We built the committee in February, and since that time we met 6 times as a whole group, and then a number of small groups and breakouts as well. Just outstanding work and dedication by those folks. Our first 2 meetings were in person, but the rest were all in a WebEx setting. So I really appreciate their leadership and their commitment to revamping our student handbook. The committee really focused on not only providing the pertinent district information and school information, but also emphasizing levels of support for all of our students and families. All the resources, information provided in the guide really frame up a readiness to learn for our students. I think that as you go through the handbook, you'll see some of the old information that we would always provide, but we added highlights to MCS in the front of the handbook, in addition to the calendars and those types of things. But then we focused on parent resources, enrollment and transfer information on our program offerings, general information on assistance and parents' rights, and attendance information. Next section we had is student and parent resources, kind of general school information, attendance expectations for students, and then information about our school discipline responses. In the student section, you'll find dress code and transportation information and health and wellness information. We have a new section on safety and security and talks about the aspects of those items in our schools and for our kids and families. And then our last section you'll see is academic progress, just general information. But then you'll see a section on the readiness to learn tiers. And I think that's really where we spent a lot of our time on the readiness to learn tiers and then the levels of response. We really wanted to review those two and create a setting that we wanted to support learning, and then a response to any infractions, discipline infractions that would still promote the readiness to learn. So you'll see as you go through that, you'll continue to see a readiness to learn or a student disposition in the handbook.
Any additional comments, Dr. Reynolds?
Nope.
Just to clarify, this is replacing all the previous handbooks.
Yes.
Correct.
Sure.
Before we had a handbook at each level. We had an elementary, middle school, high school, and a career center and adult ed handbook. We've consolidated those handbooks into one handbook and resource guide or support guide.
So I just would like to just recognize Dr. Reynolds, Chuck, for his leadership with this project and bringing the team together. He did a remarkable job. I know our families will be very excited not to have to try to comb through multiple handbooks, but now everything's in one place. I know Rachel spent a lot of time formatting and did a great job with it. So I think this is a great improvement for Muncie Community Schools. So good job, Chuck.
Thank you.
Chuck and Leanne, are both of you comfortable with the approach to discipline that's set forth in here?
Yes.
Yes, we've tried to move, we want our students to be learning, we've tried to make it, focused around positive behavior, intervention, and supports. And so not always having the most severe consequences, but having ways of teaching and, instructing students so that they can learn and get better.
What is the plan for distributing the approved final product to families, faculty, and staff?
So when parents register, there's a link where they can see a copy of the handbook. We also will have the handbook on our website, and we will have copies available in schools if a parent would like a hard copy.
What about faculty and staff?
The same thing at the beginning of the year, the principals will spend time with their faculty and staff going through the handbook, answering questions, and spending time making sure everybody has a good understanding. We also will be providing professional development on classroom management, on cultural relevant practices, on restorative justice.
Could I make a suggestion on pushing this out? Because I think this will be of importance to families for a lot of reasons. I would encourage us to do some form of a cover or transmission communication letter that then goes either electronically, mail, or perhaps both, to all of the students that we had registered this semester.
Okay.
Demonstrating the approach, which is consolidated and clearer and contains a more progressive approach to discipline. And then I assume I'm assuming the building principals have already all seen a copy of this in draft form. So.
Right. While all the principals did not serve on the committee, they had access and could give input throughout the process, and then immediately had access once we had the final version ready.
So I would think of this as a marketing opportunity that can also then, with the transmission, again, urging parents to register and those sorts of things. But I just think there's a chance that if we leave it to them having to search it out later in the summer, we'll miss an opportunity.
What was some of the feedback, like from just the parents that were on the committee? Were there any particular things that they wanted to see, or how did they feel about like even the discipline policies or their inputs?
Yeah, the general consensus was that they appreciated the clarity of the levels of responses in the back. And the administrators really brought up some of those maximum infractions that could be assessed for some of those some of the rule infraction, or some of the levels of responses were capped for some of the infractions. Just really a positive approach. If you notice at the very back, when you look at the levels of responses, it talks about the district-wide behavior expectations, about being responsible, readiness to learn. They really like that the idea of those characteristics drove the other things. Not just don't do this, but being responsible looks like turning in your own work.
Good, thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you again, Chuck, for undertaking this. I think it's a really positive development.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the committee was outstanding. They worked a long time and a lot of outside school hours. So I really appreciate those folks for helping lead that charge.
Ian, would you mind getting me a list with the names so I can send a thank you? Any additional questions? Every time I talk, my glasses fall down. I have to hold my breath so I can read a little bit, and I talk more, and then I hold my breath again. I have a stroke here. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
I think we are on to dialogue of the board. We have the back to school committee is meeting Thursday via WebEx. We had a meeting this afternoon talking about Ball State's. The writing group had a meeting talking about Ball State's situation. It's anybody's guess what August looks like. As I communicated to that group today, I think there will be significant pressure to open in August. What that looks like downstream, no idea. Leanne and her team are working on all kinds of different contingency plans. And the most complex issue that I think has been identified is how do you social distance on a bus? Which nobody has figured that out to anyone's satisfaction. So the state's, I know, looking at it, but it seems to me that we're going to have some adapting that we're going to have to do as things move along. So if anybody has any brainstorms about social distancing on a bus, feel free to share it. I do want to thank the leadership team and all the work that they've been doing, continuing to deliver education in what is clearly a challenging environment. I know that if it's anything like my office, we had decent productivity in April, but I can tell you May has dropped off. So I think people are tired. And I suspect that goes for everyone here as well as our teachers and principals. So thank you, keep it up. It's a little further here, but we're learning hard lessons. Anything else? No media? Go ahead.
As we're nearing the end of the year, I think we all knew that our faculty and staff were rock stars, but I think in these challenging times they've shined even more. Our teachers have gone above and beyond, and I get to see my own kids live it, and they've reached out, phone calls and Zoom calls and drive-bys, and the elementaries are doing farewell parades, and they've just gone above and beyond, and I know their lives have been turned upside down, but they're still serving our kids, and I just want to say thanks.
And our kiddos are resilient as well, like they are really troopers, although they may not be logging on like they should. Mine are like, oh my gosh, is it the 15th yet? I'm like, dude, sure. But they have been real, like troopers. All of these kiddos have had stress just as well. And so just to have the support of their teachers and faculty has been great. You got to give it up for Miss Kelsey with her
Oh, yeah.
hugging door. I mean, so yeah, so it's been a struggle and challenging, but it's been also rewarding to see how our district has just kind of come together and wrapped around. So.
Was there any feedback on the compensation? Good, bad, or?
Yes, well, so I only received good feedback. So I heard from multiple teachers, thanking the board for recognizing them, thanking even in these challenging times, making it a priority that they would receive additional compensation. And so I have only heard positive comments.
Okay, any other questions? One thing I would observe is we've got to get Mark a new mask. That makes, you look too much like a terrorist.
It was pretty cool. I was like, Mark's got on the coolest.
It came from a convenience store. I said, they have available, I better buy one.
Anything else before we adjourn? Thank you all. Have a nice evening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Lynn.
See ya.
Bye, Dylan.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, Donna.
Dylan's been busy interviewing. We are getting some.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.